Welcome to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks, a show that provides extraordinary insights for product managers who want to go faster and farther in their product management careers.
Hello, this is JJ Rory, Vice President at Sequent Learning Networks. In our Masters of Product Management podcast, we tap into the experiences of people who work in and around product management to help you learn and grow in your product management career. I spend most of my time helping product managers build their skills and become great at what they do. After being a product manager and a product leader myself for many years, I really couldn't ask for a more rewarding way to spend my career. That's why I'm really excited about my guest and conversation on this episode. With me today is Vivek Bedi, author of the new book, You, the Product, The Real Skills You Need to Be an Effective Product Manager. An engineer by education and entrepreneur by trade, Vivek has been obsessed over pioneering initiatives that will change the way we work, live, and communicate. Over his career journey, he has had the fortunate privilege of driving explosive change across Fortune 100 companies, such as Goldman Sachs and Northwestern Mutual, as well as rapidly scaling multiple startups. Vivek says that having led in both of those environments has taught him the lesson of blending aspects of the best of both cultures together, which is the key to winning business strategy. He is an experienced leader with the unique combination of deep product management experience, disruptive executive leadership, and a portfolio of motivational keynotes that have inspired thousands of individuals. Vivek, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, JJ. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on.
So, as I mentioned, your book is called You, the Product, The Real Skills You Need to Be an Effective Product Manager. I love that title. Tell me about your vision behind the book and what you mean by You, the Product.
Yeah, basically You, the Product, JJ, is really geared at us, ourselves, right? And thinking ourselves as a product. I've been in product management for roughly 18 years, as you mentioned in the bio, but what I've come to realize is I personally started as an engineer and came into product, right? And not many people through my journey have I met that came directly from product management. Even until recently, JJ, it hasn't been a formal curriculum in a university. The best way people learn product management is by reading books, watching other people, in the trenches of it. So this is really what I wanted to focus on, right? Over the 18 years, for people looking to get into product, level up their skills in product, what are some of those real practical skills that you need? And how do you iterate on yourself, right? So we're so focused on building products day in and day out. Let's pause and think of ourselves as a product. Where are we? That book will help evaluate where you are today. What are some of the skills you can level up on? And what are some of the scenarios? And I share a lot of my own personal use cases and embarrassing stories throughout the book as well to help kind of nail home the point.
I love it. And I love that philosophy of you or us being the product and always working on improving that. And I'm definitely going to revisit that embarrassing moment because I want to hear that. But what lessons have you learned along your career that you share in the book and perhaps in some of your other work as well?
Yeah, there's so many in the book, but just some I'll share is, for example, we're so focused on, I was reading a study recently that 75% of product managers are so good at execution, right? Execution, getting the feature sets we want, delivering on our roadmap, working with our tech team. But what about some of those other skills? But that same study, JJ, was saying 70% of our stakeholders feel like there's a room for improvement with our product managers and the teams. So it's funny, right? We think that we're doing an amazing job because we're executing and getting stuff done, but folks around us feel like there's more. There's more that can be done with product. A funny stat on this to go along, 60% of leaders still do not even know, and this is across Fortune 100s and startups, what product is, what it exactly means, what is the function, right? So product is still fairly a new discipline that's forming. Ironically, 20 million people in LinkedIn have product in their title, right? So it's many hats, it's many different experiences, and I've learned that through the years. So, based off all those stats in my reading, I came to realize that what about some of those softer skills, right? The skills that we all need and talk about every day, and we all know we need to focus on them, but we always forget about them, right? So while we're great at executing, what about storytelling, right? What about negotiating? What about, pushing back to your stakeholders and saying no, or prioritization, right? A lot of these skills that when you're thrown into it, it's difficult as a product manager, but how do you kind of go around that? As far as storytelling, I'll just zone into that a bit. I came to realize that's so important to me. When I was an engineer, I was not a great storyteller, to the point that if I interview anyone on my team, the first question I ask them, JJ, is, what's your story? Right? Just like you asked me, what's my story, right? What's your story? What's your adventures? How you got there? Because my mantra and my thesis is, if you can't tell a great story about yourself, how are you going to navigate that in your product curriculum and in your discipline? Those are some of the things that I talk about in this book and the lessons that I've learned.
I can't agree with you more. I think some of the best product managers that I've ever known started in that first bucket that you mentioned of being great executors and not being so great at the soft skills, but they knew enough to know they weren't being as effective as possible. Because the stat that you mentioned about other business functions not really understanding what product management is, that's where the soft skills come in. So we as product managers have to be that conduit to the discipline of product management and have to help kind of explain it. And as product managers work on those soft skills, I think that's you're absolutely right. That's where folks can differentiate themselves. That's fascinating. Let's dig a little bit more into some of those skills you mentioned. I love the storytelling. You can't get away from that. You mentioned navigating politics in your book and kind of being having a good balance of strategic and tactical. And tell me a little bit about that. Where do you see those skills coming into play for product managers?
Yeah, I mean, as you nailed on it, right? I think product managers the discipline itself is smack dab in the middle of the organization, right? To the left, you'll have sales and marketing. To the right, in a traditional org, you'll have technology and ops. In many ways, we are acting as the translators, right? While we're executing on the roadmap and building it, we have to make sure the sales and marketing and growth team are happy, but we also have to make sure the ops and tech team aren't overloaded. And in many ways, you're kind of translating geek to speak. You're negotiating between one side and another. And in the end of the day, everyone's looking at you as the product manager to steer the ship forward, right? So it's really important to kind of, when I say navigate politics, what I mean is kind of balance the organization. I was giving somebody some feedback recently, and I think it's unfortunate. Product managers, we have to make friends at work, but we can never make best friends because it's our role, unfortunately, to be unbiased at times, right? Mm-hmm. And how do you push back to, say, the marketing team that might be asking for something that the tech team can't deliver? It's really on you to help kind of translate that. So it's important to kind of, think through all of this as you're navigating politics. I'll share a quick story with you. I was faced with this scenario and I learned that lesson the hard way. Our clients and in a company that I used to work for were all about pie charts, right? In the financial institutions, pie charts are gold, right, JJ? Everything is based off of pie chart. Our design team decided that bar charts look better because they were building mobile apps, and bar charts look better on mobile apps. As simple as a scenario that sounds like, they did their research. They talked to a bunch of 35 and younger audiences that are mobile first, and they all preferred bar charts, right? But our current customers aren't 35 or younger. They preferred pie charts. We released it, and it was mutiny, right? Because everyone said, why did you mess up our experience? Pie charts are the way to go. And I bring up this very simple analogy because I had to navigate politics, right? On one side of the camp, our customers wanted pie charts. On another side, our future customers and our design and our product and tech team wanted innovation, which was bar charts. But very simple example that really showed that, what do you do as a product manager? Your job is really to kind of find that solution. Funny ending to the story here is we actually enabled a toggle button where the customer can
awesome.
Pie chart or bar chart, right? And I'll tell you, a year later, JJ, it was 50-50, right? People were still using one or the other, right? So in the end of the day,
interesting.
So the outcome, it didn't really matter, but my point is navigating the waters to get there and then negotiating and going back and forth. That's just one example of many that I think through as I share in the book.
Yeah, that's really interesting and a great example of kind of the chaos, if you will, of navigating those various stakeholders. That's very interesting. And I actually would have thought that the pie chart enthusiasts would have navigated over to the bar chart. So that's interesting. Our mind is more stubborn than we think sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
so, all right, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's talk about embarrassing moments.
Yeah.
And I'm only going to let you, I'm not going to talk about my embarrassing moments. I'm only going to let you talk about yours. Tell us one of your biggest failures or embarrassing moments that you talk about in the book. And most importantly, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think, this is a part of life as well. Another big concept that I share in the book is not getting married to your product. I think this is another thing I've been victim of many times, and a lot of product managers do. Unless you work at Facebook, Google, or Twitter, right? You're not
Yeah.
actually using your product. And if you are, I would love to meet you. You're not using your product every 5 minutes, right? In the end of the day, it's such an irony that we are, as product managers, are building great, amazing experiences and products day in and day out, but they're not actually for us. They're for end consumers, right? So sometimes we get married to our products, and that's happened to me a few times. And I share some examples throughout the book. One that I'll share with you really quickly is I was tapped to lead product in disrupting the exciting world of background checks, right? I say that facetiously, JJ. There's nothing exciting about background checks, but it's an industry that's just ripe for disruption when it comes to digital, right? And I wanted to come in guns blazing, and I said, we're going to build mobile apps for the background check applicants, and we're going to just shake this industry upside down. And, others around me said, we don't need mobile apps. A background check industry is all about collecting some simple data, getting processing to say, JJ, check, she can be hired for the job, and you move on, right? But I just wanted to disrupt it, right? So I built a mobile app. We rolled out an MVP. It failed, right? And the lesson, it failed because no one adopted it. We got horrible feedback. And then we shifted gears and we went towards a more robust, customized web-based strategy, right? But the lesson I learned from it is just because something is innovative and exciting doesn't mean it's the right fit for the product, right? And I failed because I wanted to do a mobile app for the background check industry, but that's not what our customers and the market demanded, right? They wanted efficiency and operational gain, and they want that check done as quickly as possible, right? So it's just one example of many that I share in the book where, I stumble. And I think these are the lessons that you can't learn in a course or you can't learn online, right? These are those lessons where you can learn from someone that's practically failed and that's willing to share the stories. And it's helped me iterate on me, the product, no pun intended.
I love it. I love it. That's kind of the quintessential solution looking for a problem, right?
Yeah.
Sounds cool, but doesn't actually solve a problem, or at least a problem that the users know they have. So you mentioned earlier how many of us who have ended up in product management
Yep.
started out somewhere else. You started out in engineering. I started out more on the other side of the business, which is kind of marketing and sales. And we through the progress of our career ended up in product management. That happens quite a bit, obviously. So what advice do you give to folks who are in another discipline within the organization, but are looking to get into product management?
Yeah, great question. I mean, listen, I think this is another ultimate irony that we deal. We see. I feel like we live with a lot of ironies in product management, right? People are looking to hire a product manager with 3 to 5 years experience, but the irony is that no one's went to school for the discipline.
Right,
Right?
right.
So you're looking for, it's a catch-22, right? We're looking for product managers with 2 to 5 years experience, but no one has actually kind of grown up in the product curriculum. So you actually need someone to open the door, right? To get you into the role because you're coming in from a discipline so you can kind of have that under your belt. So that's what makes it so challenging. And, what I recommend to folks out there is first do the basics. Yes, there's great resources, online tools, tutorials, virtual schools that are out there. You should do that because the basics of just fundamentally knowing what product is important. And again, we said it means different things to different people. So I think you should just kind of hit that area to get a good foundation and base. But I think on top of that is get a mentor. right? I found myself to get a mentor early in my career, someone that's been in a product, and I think it's always hard to find a great mentor. There's great Slack channels out there for product. There's great LinkedIn groups and Facebook groups. Put yourself out there, get a community going. I started my own meetup when I was getting into product just to get people together and start talking through, building that aspect of community. And again, the irony is you're not even realizing that you're actually doing product management, right? And some of the things that I talked about of some of these soft skills and bringing people together. So get a mentor, create a community, take courses on some of these soft skills, right? I think the virtual schools that are out there are great at teaching you how to run a stand-up, how to write a user story, how to run a Jira ticket. But what about negotiating? What about, and I think the sales discipline is an interesting one where there's a lot of analogies. A lot of great sales agents are taught some of these skills about negotiating and pushing back. So I think take some of those courses that are in those areas as well. And finally, I'd say is build something. I know that sounds silly. When I first got into product, I built my own startup that eventually got acquired. When I was in college, I built my own computer. Just get into the cadence of getting close to building something. It doesn't have to be your own startup, even if it's a simple website, right? It'll just get you through the experiences of what it's like to build something from learning about users, working with technology, and iterating it to make sure that it's never done.
I love that advice. Really, really great. If you look back at your career, which has been an awesome one and fun, I'm sure, what's one moment that stands out the most to you?
Yeah, good question. I think it was probably like my first or second year at Goldman Sachs. I remember I started as an engineer, JJ. I
Uh-huh.
was working on software for traders. And, it was exciting, but I knew there was something different about me or quirky about me, right? Because while I was like cranking out software and it was amazing, it went to the trading floor and I never heard about it, right? For example, we're working on some video chat type solutions for our traders. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to know what happened to it, right? Was there an impact? Did users love it? Did they hate it? And it felt like for me, I was missing that. And I got the opportunity to actually spend a week on the trading floor, right? Not sitting on the tech side, but moving straight to the trading floor. Oh, and geez, JJ, it was so eye opening. People screaming, paper flying, right? And like I
It's
got
so
to
cool.
yeah, it was cool. And I got
Yeah.
to see, wow, the things we're building are actually being used. They're actually being used. They're generating a lot of money for people, right? There's a business behind it. People are using it and some people love it and some people hate it, right? I was getting and traders are fun, right? Because they don't hold back. They were giving me, and the week was actually a study for me to get feedback on our solutions. Some people were very upfront about the things that weren't so great about the solution. And that really got me into this mindset where I said, I really want to get into product because I really am customer obsessed and I love watching how people use solutions. So for me, that was just an eye-opening week that just changed my career and my outlook.
One of the key things that I've found in my experience is that observing customers, as you said, is whether they're internal customers or external customers, if you will,
Yeah.
is one of the single best learning experiences a product manager can have. And so I love that story.
I'll add one other thing to that, JJ. There's another
Yeah.
chapter on this, and we didn't touch on it. Sometimes data can lie to you. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
we are so taught to be data driven product managers, and what I've learned sometimes is watching people use the product and shadow
Hmm.
stuff, right? You know this. Shadow
Yeah.
people, watch them, observe workflow, see how they use the tool. I actually found that sometimes data won't tell you when they got off the tool or when they didn't use the tool or what they didn't like about it or what they struggled on. So sometimes I also make sure to complement data with shadow sessions and watching people learn. And there's a whole chapter dedicated to that. So you're spot on that on the value and importance of that.
Perfect. I love it. So finally, tell people how they can learn more about the book, how they can get the book, and learn a little bit more about you as well.
Sure. To learn more about me, vivekbedi.com, first, last name. You can also email me at vivekbedi@gmail.com. Always excited to just help. I spend a lot of time today advising, mentoring, just doing a lot of that. So happy to help any way I can to anyone that has any product challenges. The book, You, the Product by Vivek Bedi, is available on Amazon as of last week. So feel free to check it out. And
Great. Awesome. Well, this has been an amazing discussion. I certainly recommend everyone out there go get the book. I've read it myself. It's amazing. And even if you don't get it for Vivek's amazing advice, you're going to love the illustrations by Jaden Bedi. And so Family Affair, wonderful, wonderful book. Vivek, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you for joining us on Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. I am JJ Rory, and I look forward to speaking with you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Masters of Product Management, powered by Sequent Learning Networks. If you'd like to take your career to the next level with additional tools, training, coaching, and books, be sure to visit Sequent Learning Networks at sequentlearning.com.